Before I get into the video, I would like to give a quick shout out to Levitation. This video was heavily inspired by his own videos. I really recommend checking them and his channel out. But with all things said, let's get down to the video. The Indominus Rex versus Sharktopus. InGen's Untamable Queen and Blue Water's Project S11. If you have been watching my content, you might have known that this is, without a doubt, my #1 favorite and most wanted matchup of all time. It may seem like an odd matchup for a death battle, but believe it or not, it actually works in every way. I have been supporting this matchup for a long time, with making many amount of templates, versus arts, and even commissioning a fan art and a track. But it feels like it's not enough. There's something else I should do to give this matchup more attention. That's when I stumbled upon these Why It's Perfect videos. Watching them got me more into Light vs. Walter and Archie Sonic vs. Makoda. I even see some people got inspired to do their own, and this got me thinking, how about I should try one, and what would be the perfect matchup to do with my #1 matchup of all time? So today, I will explain why Indominus Rex vs. Sharktopus is a perfect matchup for a death battle. Now, on the surface, it may seem like the theme is just hybrids, but it's way more than that. These two share many things in common involving their character and how the plot of their films revolve around them. Indominus and Sharktopus are two violent but highly intelligent biogenetic hybrids, engineered and weaponized by a shady company to serve as a weapon for military use. They also were attempted to be used for the public. Like, Indominus was going to become an attraction at Jurassic World as humanity's first original dinosaur to walk on Earth, as Sharktopus was going to become a main attraction to the Munda del Maran Aquarium. But these two escaped from their creator's control and captivity, going on a rampage and slaughtering any living being that comes in their path. Now, there is something unique about their killings. Of course, you would expect them to eat their prey like you would normally see in a sci-fi or horror films based with dinosaurs and sharks. But let's just say they don't always consume their victims. They would just, I don't know, probably leave their corpse behind or just leave them to die. In other words, they don't always kill because of hunger. They kill for a sport. After the hybrids escape, their creators/directors were determined to get them back. Despite the confident, headstrong, and knowledgeable male protagonist suggesting they should just put the two down for good, but the suggestion was denied. Rex and Sharktopus were too valuable to get rid of, and also really expensive.
We have $26 million invested in that asset, we can't just kill it.
I mean, making a genetically engineered animal isn't free, let alone cheap. Soon, a group of armed people would then be sent out to capture them alive, but it only ended up for them to get outsmarted and ambushed by the two hybrids, creating a massacre. The films then show that the male protagonist has caught on towards the hybrids' bizarre behaviors, and hinting that there was a dark secret hidden behind their creation. At the beginning of the film Jurassic World, Indominus Rex's original purpose was meant to be just an attraction for visitors. Simon Masrani, the founder of Jurassic World and the man behind the idea of Indominus, only wanted a hybrid as an attempt to make Jurassic World a big success again, after the theme park was not receiving that much success over the years. InGen's chief scientist Dr. Wu constructed Simon's idea of a hybrid, but not exactly what he requested for. The design for Indominus was going to be used differently, something Simon never approved. In Sharktopus, while Nathan Sands, the man behind the creation of Sharktopus, and his daughter Nicole, the co-creator and biogenetic designer of Sharktopus, did state that Sharktopus was meant to be a military weapon for the Navy. However, there was a secret behind Sharktopus's making, something that Nicole had no idea about. As the movies go on, the truth was revealed. Indominus' variety of different genetics from other animals was ordered by Vic Hoskin, the real mastermind behind Indominus, who anticipated for Indominus' true purpose as a military weapon. And while Sharktopus' true purpose was never really hidden, but Nicole technically saw Sharktopus as a hunter, like an ordinary shark. However, Sans knew a hunter would never perform well to be a super weapon. He needed Sharktopus to be more than that. It turns out, Sans ordered his technicians to alter Sharktopus' aggression state at a higher level, making Sharktopus a killing machine. Many attempts were made to bring these creatures back alive, but it just resulted with many brutalities. Sans and Vic would soon learn that these quote-unquote living weapons are too much for them to control, and would ultimately die by their own mistakes. As unstoppable Indominus and Sharktopus were, their stories would soon come to a complete end, as they both would ultimately die by the hands of another biogenetic creature, and their reign of terror has come to a complete stop. Or has it? After and before their deaths, fractions of their body parts were secretly collected for a crooked group, and would be the main key element to create a new creature to continue their terror and legacy. Jurassic World and Sharktopus portray these two as a reminder of humanity's arrogance. They mess with Mother Nature, turning her own creatures into their own living weapons, and the worst part, they succeed, but humanity would soon learn that their greatest projects can turn into their worst nightmare. These two aren't mindless monsters, they are knowledgeable animals. They won't be a tool for humanity. They will live their own life, but from how they are made, their only desire is to kill, which leads to one more topic that these two share, a similar weakness of their own mentality. These two may have a high level of intelligence, but they also have a very high aggression level, resulting in their own behavior getting the best of them. But it's not their fault they are like this, it's their creators that are to blame. In Jurassic World Evolution, the Indominus Rex was stated to be the most stressed out dinosaur in the game, attacking any kind of dinosaur, including her own kind, no matter what. Although smaller carnivores like raptors are tolerated. Yes, Jurassic World Evolution might not be canon to the movies, but the game is about running your own Jurassic World theme park, and gives out information about each dinosaur, including Indominus herself. Might not be the same character, but it is the same species, so it should be reliable. In Sharktopus vs. Pteracuda, the offspring of the original Sharktopus was found and raised by Lorena Christmas, marine biologist and aquatic trainer for her greedy uncle's aquarium. Despite this new Sharktopus being properly cared and trained, the higher levels of aggression that was altered in the original Sharktopus' genetics was still remained in the new Sharktopus' blood. No matter how much Lorena did to help this Sharktopus species will always be born to be the killing machines it was made to be. In other words, as intelligent these two are, they can't be tamed. Regardless if it's another kind, they will just attack anything they get their sight on, unless you alter their genes or drug them to calm down. But other than that, there's no other way to change their behaviors. The only thing to do is just run. Now, it's time to get to where things get more fun. You know, what I love more about this matchup is that these two are so similar on paper, but if we just take a good look at them, they physically aren't. We are putting up against a dinosaur with a variety of genetics with teeth and claws, against a genetic shark with teeth and octopus limbs. This is something you would see in a movie, but this could be more than your typical movie monster fight. Now, as grounded as these two are, the fight could still be enjoyable, and go hard as shit. To start off, these two will struggle against each other's physical equipment, with Indominus struggling against Sharktopus wrapping its limbs all around it, like your typical octopus, along with dealing with the spikes Sharktopus has at the end of each of its limbs, as Sharktopus struggles trying to get through Indominus' rough osteoderm and dealing damage from her razor sharp claws and powerful bite. But they aren't going to just rely on their physiology for their own physical advantage. They will also rely on their own genetic capabilities to counter the other. Each have their own senses that could be used to output each other's stealth advantage. Both would rely on their own pain tolerances to keep up as they rip each other apart, and each would be using their own abilities like Irex's camouflage, communication, techniques, and Sharktopus's elastic limbs, regeneration, shooting out ink, and its amphibious nature to go on both land and sea. The last thing they will need to rely on to make their own physical and genetic capabilities more effective is using their own intelligence to plan out and outsmart the other. Indominus would attempt to go after a weak spot or use any method of attack that would make Sharktopus helpless. More likely, she would try to pin Sharktopus down and go after its limbs. She would also rely on her camouflage for Sharktopus to lose sight of her, giving her some time for an ambush attack if Sharktopus doesn't pick up her scent, or getting herself away from Sharktopus to give her time to form a plan, or use that opportunity to find an obstacle that would distract Sharktopus for her. This is where Indominus' communication comes in. Now, this kind of advantage does heavily depend on the scenario, but if she gets lucky and spots a raptor pack, or if we want to get more creative, a group of Carnotauruses, she would use her communication to gain control as their alpha, and to form an attack against Sharktopus. Okay, another thing I want to clarify, I know there hasn't been a scene of Indominus communicating with a Carnotaurus like she did with the Raptors, but she has encountered one before, Toro, in Camp Cretaceous. The rest was off-screen, so we don't know what happened next, but it is heavily implied she communicated with Toro due to Indominus having Carnotaurus DNA, and researchers have theorized that Carnotauruses can hunt in groups. If you want a more detailed explanation, there are a couple videos that will explain it better. Anyway, Indominus and her new formed pack would gain a number advantage over Sharktopus, but this is where Sharktopus puts its own intelligence to good use. It would rely on its agility and stealth to evade the pack, and forming its ambush to try and take them out all at once. Sharktopus would also use the environment to gain an advantage, like trying to trick Irex into getting any watery area to gain a huge environmental advantage over her, or Sharktopus would use its suckers to stick on any high objects to gain a higher ground, or using each of its limbs to stick on to any tall objects like a tree in order to slingshot itself towards Indominus. And if Sharktopus manages to get an accurate shot, it could have a good chance to wrap it around its limbs and strain her down. That is, if Indominus manages to find a loose end that she could use to escape. We could get some cool shots in this fight, like Sharktopus grabbing a hold of Indominus' jaw to prevent her from biting down, Indominus translating into her camouflage mode, a slow motion scene of Irex clawing Sharktopus' head, both biting onto each other's jaw, and Sharktopus and Indominus possibly taking the fight underwater. Also, we could get a funny shot of Sharktopus slapping Indominus. Oh, wow! The fight could also lead up to some gore potential. Indominus and Sharktopus could deal with some missing body parts, and there could be a gruesome death. There could also be some gore with other dinosaur deaths, if they get included depending on the scenario, and human deaths. I mean, the Jurassic and Sharktopus films have shown to lead up to some gruesome moments with human victims. Also, speaking of that, this matchup also gives us a good opportunity to bring her back, seeing she is becoming really popular across the Death Battle community. Heck, she even has her own Death Battle shirt. If she is added, she is definitely going to be a Sharktopus victim. I mean, considering Sharktopus usually kills off all the pretty girls in its films. Another thing this matchup offers is creativity. Not just the fight, but the setup for the scenario and climax. You could set these two up to fight in a majority of places. You could have it take place somewhere near Island Nubra, like in the restricted area, the main street, or in the watering hole. It doesn't have to be on the island. It could take place inside a laboratory, a cargo ship, or on a beach, which could be the perfect opportunity for human victims. As for the climax, their final clash, while being heavily wounded, will be around any harsh environmental conditions. like having them fight during a thunderstorm, a forest fire, or a volcano eruption. There is so much you can do to make this fight fun. Indominus Rex vs Sharktopus may not look like it would offer that much for a fight because they are based off animals and they're not like your typical fictional characters you would normally see on Death Battle, but if we just think more of it, going on how they would perform based on their character, what they are capable of, how they would counter the other, what obstacles each would face, and how their surroundings would put more impact on them, you would find that a simple grounded fight like this could turn out to be something fun, something creative, and something way more than what you would think of it. Now, there are some discussions and a question that needs to be discussed. Okay, first thing, I have been hearing some people say that this isn't fair because Indominus was killed by an aquatic creature before and it will just result the same, blah blah blah. Now, I'm not saying Sharktopus loses or anything. I personally see this fight could go either way. It's just the argument is just...
Are you serious?
Okay, if you just take a look at the Mosasaurus and compare it to Sharktopus, it's not that hard to see that these two are completely different creatures, let alone they have a massive size difference. Besides, going by that logic, you could say the same thing about Sharktopus. While Whalewolf is a mix between a land and a sea creature, it did manage to kill the Sharktopus on land. So, would you look at that? They both got killed at their opposite territory, so that makes things even now. With all that getting out of the way, time to go over the main discussion. It's about Sharktopus' 2023 Chinese reboot. Now, it is a bit questionable if this media should be concluded for Sharktopus since it's not necessarily created by SYFY, and its design is much different, but it does share similar characteristics to the original Sharktopus. Both were genetically engineered, both are smart, both are able to go on land, and 2023 Sharktopus gives off feats that are consistent that the original Sharktopus could pull off. Also, if IREX is getting a slight composite with mobile games, which grants her some techniques and some abilities, I think it would be fair to do the same for Sharktopus. Now, if the reboot does get concluded in this debate, I believe there is a restriction that shouldn't be used, and that's Sharktopus' giant form. Yes, 2023 Sharktopus was able to grow bigger than a cruise ship. Just look at it. With a size like that, it would take Indominus out no problem. But context does matter for this. Sharktopus was able to get bigger due to its mutation accelerating, due to the overdose of the medicine it received at the beginning when it was just an infant. Heck, that medicine was the whole reason how it grew up so fast to begin with. I believe Sharktopus' giant form was caused by human interference and can't do it naturally, which is why I believe the form is a bit inconsistent to use. This could be said the same for Indominus' level 40 form. Going by the game's logic, dinosaurs require 2 level 10s of their same species to evolve into a level 20, and a total of 8 level 10 dinosaurs to evolve into a level 40, and they first need to consume a large amount of food to gain that right level to evolve, and the waiting period takes a while, along with some trial and error. Now then, there's just one question left. Should they even be on Death Battle in the first place? I've heard some people say that Indominus, let alone the Jurassic franchise, and Sharktopus should not be on Death Battle. I mean, if some people don't want them to appear on the show, I will respect that opinion, but that doesn't mean they aren't Death Battle material. Jurassic Park, World, whatever, does seem like a strange franchise to be on Death Battle because majority of the characters like Rexy are based on actual existing animals, but if we just take a look more deep into it, the Jurassic franchise has a lot to offer for Death Battle to look into, with movies, shows, novels, games, and even comics. Plus, it also separates it from the actual animals, with Jurassic's dinosaurs being genetically made, and also inaccurate. Also, IREX isn't even a real one to begin with, and not to mention this isn't going to be their first genetic dinosaur to appear on the show. Personally for me, I don't see any issue with the Jurassic franchise, let alone I-Rex getting a Death Battle episode. Well, I do believe the only characters that have a good chance to appear on the show are I-Rex, Rexy, and probably Blue, but that's fine by me. Now, for Sharktopus, this one I really want to talk about. I've been hearing a lot of people say Sharktopus is too goofy looking to be on Death Battle, and putting it up against the Indominus Rex seems silly, because it's a quote-unquote bad movie to most audience because of its low-budget CGI. And as a big Sharktopus fan, I find that pretty insulting. Sharktopus' CGI may not be that great compared to Indominus's, but so what? Sharktopus seems like a ridiculous looking character because it's half shark, half octopus. So what? At least the character's design doesn't look basic like this. It has some neat details with the spikes on its limbs and gills, and its fins got neatly touched to make it look like it was man-made, and its shark half looks a bit off in a good way when comparing it to other sharks like the great white. Plus, it's a science fiction monster. They're supposed to give off a unique appearance. That's why they're called monsters to begin with. Sharktopus may seem like a joke on the surface, but if we all look deep into this character, you would see that Sharktopus has every right to be respected and taken seriously, regardless of its quality. Its films gives off what this low-budget creature can offer, showing impressive feats of intelligence, stats, and what it can pull off that made it an actual threat in its films. While yes, Sharktopus does have its moments when it seems a bit unserious, but it's not all like that. It mainly shows those moments in its third film, and also most of those unserious moments like the slapping the protagonist was due to Sharktopus being under the effect of the voodoo doll. Heck, that doll was the main reason why it lost to Whalewolf in the first place. Also, that's the son of the first Sharktopus. The mother Sharktopus has more serious moments than her son, along with better design and better CGI. Although her son does have its serious moments in the second film, and even then, just because a character does have its unserious moments doesn't mean we should look down at them like that. Sharktopus may not be perfect, but it's no joke either, as you know what they say, never judge a book by its cover. Indominus Rex vs Sharktopus seems like a strange matchup at first, but if we just look more into these characters, they share a lot in common with their origins, their behaviors, how they represent the destruction of humanity's own ego, and it gives off a fun and creative fight potential. Will this matchup ever happen? Well, the chances of that are pretty low, but it's not stopping me from believing. I mean, if we got Among Us on Death Battle, I don't see any reason for getting these two on the show, despite how the chances are. Now, I think it's time we reach an end to this video. I will remind y'all that this is just my opinion on the matchup. If it's not your cup of tea, then that's fine. I just want to give off my view of what this matchup can offer, the best way I can. Indominus Rex vs Sharktopus is a matchup that means a lot to me. It holds a personal attachment. Sharktopus is my favorite film of all time. Yes, I am being serious. It's been my favorite film since I was 7, and I really love sci-fi original films, no matter what you all say about it. And I really love the Jurassic franchise. I love their games, movies, and shows, and Indominus is my favorite villain of the franchise. This matchup holds a special place in my heart, and seeing it get more popular over time just warms my heart. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoy it. This was a new experience to make, and I'm just happy to share this with y'all. Now, all I can say is, peace out everyone.